Please. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of At the Coalface Live. It's fantastic to be with you again today, this Friday, the 17th of December, 2021. And hopefully you all have had a fantastic week. Hopefully you guys are all getting ready for Christmas, and the craziness of the period is not getting to you too badly, especially those of you who work in e-commerce and digital. This tends to be one of the craziest times of the year, and everybody's running around a flat tack trying to get product with all the supply chain woes going on around the world, making sure that their customers get serviced at the highest level possible, making sure they're running all their acquisition as strongly as they can to acquire customers to carry them through into the new year. So there's a lot going on at this time of the year for the whole of the retail and e-commerce sectors. So hopefully you're all making it through very well, and hopefully you have had a successful year so far, capped off with hopefully your best Christmas period and holiday period ever. So as per usual, we'll jump straight into the news. If you have any commentary or questions, feel free to drop them into your feed, wherever you're watching this from, whether that be LinkedIn, whether that be Facebook, or whether that be YouTube. And then I'll be able to get back to you and respond to that at the end of the broadcast after I've gotten through the week's news. As always, it's awesome to be with you. I'll jump straight in, and we do have some very interesting news this week. And it's been a busy week on the news front, and so there's a lot to cover off this week. Now, the first piece of news comes out of internet retailing, and it is that grocery delivery startup Volley is to expand beyond Sydney after an $18 million seed funding round. And it says that they launched in July of this year. I'd actually never heard of Volley before, and I guess that makes sense considering I don't live in Sydney. But apparently they launched in July this year by Mark Heath and Thibaut Henry. Volley accepts online orders or by its app between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m., 7 days a week across 42 Sydney suburbs. The pair said they want to disrupt the nation's $122 billion a year grocery industry by delivering grocery orders within 15 minutes and doing away with the need for consumers to carry out a weekly shop. They aim to make ordering supplies as simple and engaging as browsing Instagram and receiving their order in less time than it would take them to make a round trip to the supermarket. Their model is from a fully employed delivery and dispatch team to the way we use electric bikes for delivery, they said, is designed around the way people live, said Heath. We firmly believe that our customers have a better experience when our riders and other staff are part of the company working with us. So this is clearly a shot over the bow of the likes of Uber Eats and some of the other grocery delivery or food delivery services around the world that effectively use contractors, effectively a marketplace of contractors that do the delivery on behalf of the delivery service. And so this is feels more like an Ocado type model. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out as they look to expand around the rest of Australia. That's a decent amount of change, but man, you chew up capital very, very quickly in this game as you look to grow out and expand geometrically and based on region around a country as large as Australia. They say that by owning our own supply chain, Volley delivers at blazing fast speed without compromising on price, quality, or availability. We source directly from suppliers, store in our own micro-fulfillment centers, and deliver using fully employed and mostly full-time staff, said Henry. Volley is the supermarket of the future that is built around our customers, not the other way around. And I have no doubt the grocery has absolutely exploded over the last 18 to 24 months in terms of digital grocery, e-commerce grocery. Whether that be brands that have now added extensive click and collect to every single one of their chain stores, or whether that be delivery services like Volley that either operate in a marketplace type fashion, similar to like an Uber Eats type of a model, or whether a fully owned fashion like this. And we're starting to even see some of the grocery behemoths get into the dark store environment, whereby they're creating grocery stores that are fully staffed internally or largely automated by robotics, that are not open to the public for either click and collect collection nor shopping in store. And they are used primarily as purely waypoints for either click and collect and or shipment to the door. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the major players, particularly in New Zealand, where we have an absolutely duopolistic grocery market here. There's two major players and not much else. And they've kind of pushed all the other major players out of the market. It will be interesting to see how they adapt to more competition coming into the country in New Zealand, in particular from the likes of Costco and some other major international brands that have signaled their entry into the New Zealand grocery market sometime within the next 12 to 18 months. competition tends to be a very, very good thing for the end consumer. And obviously, with plays like Volley and other pure plays in the digital grocery space, it's going to put pressure on the long-standing incumbents that have had a monopoly for many, many years. And that can only be a good thing for the end consumer. It can only be a good thing for prices and availability of products in the grocery space. We're already seeing massive competition in the United States. We're seeing massive competition in the UK. And competition in grocery just hasn't really been too much of a thing down in ANZ, but it's looking set to change very, very rapidly. Now, the next piece of retailer news comes out of Inside Retail, and that is that Boohoo launches in 5 Asian markets. UK-based fashion e-commerce player Boohoo is expanding its presence into 5 Asian countries in hopes to get a share of the booming online fashion industry in Asia. The expansion plan sees the launching of Boohoo's sites in Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Boohoo's online platforms in Asia are curated for customers in each individual market with localized website languages, user-friendly layouts, and services and delivery logistics tailored for each market to provide support and to serve the needs of local customers. Boohoo updates 500 new items a week across its range, offering a selection of affordable fashion for men and women. Founded in Manchester in 2006, Boohoo is a multi-brand fashion, home, and beauty platform targeting Gen Z and millennial customers. Marketing its launch in Asia, Boohoo is running a series of discounts until the end of the year. Now, as you probably know, Boohoo has been caught up in an absolute storm of controversy over modern slavery and its supply chain that has been called into question over the last 12 to 18 months. They've really not put too many of those concerns to rest. They've launched some internal programs to try to ensure and guarantee that their supply chains do not infringe on modern slavery laws and rules, and I guess more than anything else, to put their customers at ease that they are not stoking the fires of modern slavery around the world in terms of their supply chain and manufacturing, which happens all throughout the world, but primarily in Asia. And so obviously they are signaling through this push into the Asian and Southeast Asian markets, they are signaling to the market that they want to both service and supply into those markets just as much as source from those markets. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Boohoo does. They've absolutely grown explosively over the last 2 years. They've bought up other failed brands in the UK, failed fashion brands in the UK, incorporated them into the Boohoo brand as sub-brands, and in some cases carried them on as their own standalone brands as well. So Boohoo growing very fast, very quickly, and it's going to be interesting to see just how the market responds to their push into Asia, where they will find much, much more competition in the fast fashion space than they do in the UK and in other Western countries. So let's just see how this one plays out. But obviously, they're trying to tap into a very, very large, particularly Asian and Southeast Asian market for fast fashion. Now, another piece of news this comes out of the bucket of e-commerce, omni-channel platform, and tech news, and that is that Google has launched the creator commerce platform Kaya. It's spelled Qaya. I could be butchering that. Not sure if it's pronounced Kaya or Quaya, or not quite sure exactly. I've never heard anyone pronounce this yet because it is brand new. But anyways, they have created this creator commerce platform, and this came out of the Area 120 sort of skunkworks program out of Google, which creates brand new cutting edge technology and platforms that may or may not be commercialized. And they said that the project is the latest to emerge from Google's in-house project incubator Area 120, which was recently a part of a broader reorganization of the company that elevated its status after many of its earlier projects exited to different parts of Google, including its cloud, search, shopping, and commerce divisions. The new project, Kaya, was co-founded by Nathaniel Nadif Hayfree, a founder in residence at Area 120, who previously worked on the jobs marketplace Cormo. After hearing from dozens of creators about how difficult and time-consuming it is to build their digital business, he got the idea for Kaya, a service that would allow them to sell directly to fans. Several other members on the Kaya team are also creators who bring with them their own experiences with existing creator tooling. They understood from their own efforts and other creators that they spoke to that there's demand for a flexible, no-code product that could function as a one-stop shop where creators can make money from their own work and better connect with their audience. Kaya also allows creators to build personalized web storefronts featuring their products and services and other digital downloads, which can then be linked to their YouTube merchant shelf and integrated with Google Search and Google Shopping. The company says up to 1,000 products can be hosted per storefront. So what they go to great pains to call out here is they are not trying, Google is definitely not trying to compete with the likes of the Shopify's and the big commerce, and even it doesn't even sound like they're really trying to compete with the likes of Substack or Ghost Pro or Squarespace. They're trying to do something that's quite uniquely Google. Now, what's interesting about this is that Google, as it starts to get further and further outside of its core competency of ads and ad revenue, they have always struggled to do anything related to commerce. They know they have to. They know they have to keep throwing stuff against the commerce wall to see what sticks, given the growth, particularly over COVID, during COVID, of the creator economy, plus the rapid growth in e-commerce. They cannot walk away. They know that Amazon will continue to eat their lunch if they don't do something with commerce. They've obviously tried many other commerce plays before, all the way from their Google Shopping Marketplace, which they effectively have quietly shuttered earlier this year. They've also tried to bring in product recommendations directly shoppable into YouTube. They ran that test also earlier in the year, but it has been discontinued. So Google's efforts at anything outside of its core ads business has really struggled in relation to digital commerce. So it remains to be seen whether Kaya can break that string of losses by Google and start to make inroads into the creator economy. And I think the fact that you can link this back to Google Shopping, that you can link this back to YouTube, that you can link this back to the merchant shelf, I think the fact that they are going to build out deep ties into the broader Google ecosystem around this, and obviously the ability to run ads against your storefront, plus the fact that they are focusing on digital goods, not physical goods, the fact that they're really focusing on that core competency that Google has around digital and selling digital goods in this particular context. And they've talked specifically about adding the ability to do subscriptions, whether that be a subscription type of digital service, such as a newsletter type of subscription or other digital subscriptions. That they've talked about being able to add almost any type of digital product, whether it be a one-off sale or a subscription type sale, to the platform. However, they very carefully skirted the idea that they would be competing with Shopify by calling out the fact that if a creator sells physical goods or services on other e-commerce platforms, an import function will allow them to feature these items on their Kaya page, complete with their own personal branding. So it's not 100% clear whether those particular links to those physical goods would link out to the third-party shopping cart like a Shopify or a BigCommerce, or whether the transaction would take place in Kaya, with the transaction effectively being shipped off via API to those other platforms for fulfillment. So there's a lot we don't know yet about this platform. It's only just been announced. And the pages around Kaya on the Google blog, as well as their product page, are still pretty light on details. But what they did say is that each store gets its own custom URL in the form of kaya.store/yourname or yourname.channel, which could be used in place of the links that creators currently place on social media sites created with link and bio solutions like Linktree. And they said that the Google Pay is built into Kaya, and it supports a variety of monetization types, including subscription, tipping, and one-time payments. Kaya offers insights and analytics about how the creators' products are performing in terms of sales. And currently, the product is free to use, with monetization managed on a transactional basis. That is, creators will keep the vast majority of the revenue they generate from products they upload and sell on Kaya, notes Google. So very interesting news out of Google. As I said, they are an absolutely ads-dependent business. Google Cloud still continues to struggle against AWS and even against Azure in terms of adoption. And when we look outside of those core ad products, when we look at some of the other free products like Gmail, etc., but then you pay for G Suite and for the commercial product, those are relatively small revenue drivers for the business. And when you are a multi-billion-dollar company like Google, you have to pull very big levers to move the needle enough to impress shareholders. So let's just see how Kaya plays out. It is an interesting play. It's a bit like what Amazon has done when they bought e-commerce platforms in the past and then merged some of that functionality into Amazon, and yet it's not clear exactly what Amazon's non-marketplace play will look like for creators into the future. They've played with live stream shopping hosted directly on Amazon as well. So all of these guys are trying to angle and take an approach into commerce that suits them best, We see Shopify trying to stay fairly and squarely out of Amazon sites by not going into creating its own marketplace of its own Shopify stores. So all of these major behemoths in the commerce space are coming at this from a very, very different angle. And then we have some of the other omni-channel tech providers that are building out e-commerce functionality hanging off of, say, a point of sale platform. And we see that primarily with the likes of Lightspeed and their point of sale and their purchase of other e-commerce platforms for both B2C and B2B, trying to fill out their omni-channel offering for the market. So everybody's trying to get to that omni-channel nirvana, but everybody's taking a slightly different track to get there. Now, in marketplace news, Amazon has been handed a $1.7 billion fine by Italian authorities for harmful practices. This, according to Power Retail. Amazon has been issued a fine of 1.1 billion euros, 1.74 billion AUD by the Italian Market Authority, AGCM, alleging that Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA, is abusing its powers and disadvantaging its competitors. The Italian antitrust probe has accused FBA of harmful practices, ultimately abusing its dominant position of power. And according to the AGCM, Amazon expanded its freight services with the hopes of market dominance and disadvantages the third-party merchants that do not use the FBA logistics channel. As such, the sellers that don't use the FBA services miss out on benefits, including increased visibility on the website, access to the Prime label, and Amazon holds a dominant position in the Italian market for intermediation services on marketplaces, which Amazon leverages to favor the adoption of its own logistics service, said the watchdog in a statement. Last month, Amazon also lost a court bid with the European Union to prevent the EU and Italy from running parallel investigations into the e-commerce platform and how it treats its sellers. The European Commission will look at the way Amazon selects its retailers for the highlight box. This feature attracts roughly 80% of its sales. In response to the fine and the probe, a statement from Amazon explained its dissatisfaction with the decision. We strongly disagree with the decision of the Italian Competition Authority, and we will appeal, the statement said. No surprises there. Amazon always appeals. Amazon always ties up these regulators in court for multiple years while it continues to do its thing behind the scenes. Amazon has almost unlimited deep pockets, and in some respects are more powerful and certainly richer than some of the countries that are trying to cut them down to size. So very interesting to see Amazon pushing back against this, and it will be interesting to see whether the European Commission or Italy and their watchdog can actually do anything substantive to sort of rein in Amazon, particularly around its logistics powerhouse capabilities. And what they also said was that when sellers choose FBA, they do so because it is efficient, convenient, and competitive in terms of price. This is Amazon's position anyway. Small and medium-sized businesses have multiple channels to sell their products both online and off. Amazon is just one of those options. The proposed fine and remedies are unjustified and disproportionate. Well, I guess when you look at it through that lens, if you're just purely looking at the channels that merchants can sell through, absolutely they do. But when you look at effectively what is monopolistic type behavior by promoting brands that use FBA, so use the logistics platform behind Amazon, and when it benefits them as merchants on the core Amazon.com or Amazon.co.it, I think it is in this case with Italy, when it disadvantages brands that don't use FBA but sell as third-party sellers on Amazon, that's when we start to get into an area that's probably worthy of antitrust investigation, because you've already got this, Amazon is already subsidizing their business through the AWS success around the world, and the profitability of AWS is used to subsidize Amazon's penetration into new markets and new categories all around the world. Everybody knows that. Everybody accepts that. But when they start also taking the power of Prime, when they start taking the power of FBA, its logistics network around the world, which is increasingly getting out of just the middle mile, and it's actually getting into last mile delivery all the way to the door as well. And it's not just planes, and it's not just trains, and it's not just boats. And Amazon is now building its own shipping containers, as we discussed last week. They're chartering their own container ships around the world. So from a logistics perspective, Amazon is growing its global dominance in logistics. And I do understand why it would be of concern when they use FBA as a weapon to effectively bludgeon the third-party sellers on Amazon.com into using FBA, or blackmails them effectively into using FBA, because if they don't use FBA, they will lose out on very, very important positioning on Amazon.com and its regional equivalents. So let's just watch how this plays out. I suspect it'll just be tied up in court for years and years and years with no resolution anytime soon. But certainly, whenever a $1.7 billion fine, it's chump change for Amazon, but it is still enough to put a shot over their bow and to certainly cause them to sit up and pay attention and see whether other countries will follow suit. Because oftentimes when the first domino falls and they are convicted in one country, then that can be used as a case precedent being set to go down that similar path in other countries. So let's just see how this one plays out. Now, in other Amazon news from Charged Retail, Amazon appoints former Prime boss to oversee its pharmacy division. And Amazon is going hammer and tongs at pharmacy and health all around the world, because when you are as big as Amazon, again, you need to pull very large levers. You need to go into very large markets that are multi-billion-dollar markets. If you're going to go into a new category, it has to be a multi-billion-dollar category. Otherwise, you will not even bother. And that's why some of the smaller retailers around the world that are playing in niche industries, niche markets, niche verticals, niche categories, they have less to worry about from Amazon than somebody going into a category where Amazon is either already dominant or it's a multi-billion-dollar category that Amazon wants to own, such as pharmacy. The rest of the major players around the world in the health and pharmacy space are going to find themselves increasingly up against the 800-pound gorilla that is Amazon. And the story goes to point out that Amazon has appointed the former boss of its widely popular Prime subscription offering as the head of its Amazon pharmacy division. So anytime you get somebody who has the experience with Prime and building Prime, looking at new categories to own, run, and build, you should be sitting up and paying attention if you're an Amazon competitor. And the article calls out that Neil Lindsay was last month promoted to Senior VP of Health and Brand within the company's global consumer business. Lindsay will oversee Amazon's budding healthcare division, which includes its online pharmacy, telehealth, and health diagnostics divisions. He will also continue to oversee Amazon's global brand and marketing efforts, a person close to the matter told CNBC. Lindsay reports directly to Amazon chief executive Andy Jassy, as he is a part of the S team, which is a group of highly influential executives within the company. Amazon launched Amazon Pharmacy last year, which followed on from its 2018 acquisition of U.S. pharmacy PillPack. The division is designed to help customers get over-the-counter medicines rapidly, utilizing its already successful distribution network, which we just discussed before. The company's telehealth service, coined Amazon Care, initially started out as a pilot program for some of its employees, but the company extended the program for all of its employees in the U.S. and began offering it to other companies for their workers. As part of its wider pharmacy strategy, Amazon is also seeking to attract health companies to its cloud service to manage their vast amounts of health data, which is a concerning topic for many. No kidding. Amazon already holds massive amounts of data on many consumers around the world, and they are concerned, rightly so. I think that if Amazon has access to their health data as well, they may be marketed to in perhaps even more nefarious ways. Now, it says that Amazon has also recently added new healthcare applications to its Alexa voice assistant, and it has rolled out a health and fitness tracker, which is called Halo. Loop Capital analysts estimated Amazon could grow its revenue by $72 billion through further healthcare expansion. So when I talk about billion-dollar levers, this is the kind of billion-dollar lever I'm talking about. A $72 billion slice of the health pie is something worth going after, something worth fighting for Amazon. And this will be a multi-year, multi-decade effort by Amazon. No doubt they're going to continue to pour more and more resources into the space. So let's just see how this plays out. I suspect that some of the bundling, because the person now heading this comes from the Prime background, it would not surprise me at all if they come up with more and more tiers of Prime. And some of those tiers for Prime may include health and pharmacy services and health insurance as part of that Prime subscription. So I think they're going to continue to take it to the market. I think they're going to continue to be competitive on the health front. So going to be very interesting to see and learn from Amazon as they continue to grow out their strategic play in the health space. Now, when we look at social media platform news, BigCommerce expands its TikTok for Business offering to merchants in 4 new countries. And this news originally came out of eSeller 365, but also came out of BigCommerce themselves, as well as TikTok and a few other blogs around the world. Now, BigCommerce has announced that it is expanding its recent TikTok for Business offering to support merchants in France, the Netherlands, Italy, and New Zealand. Woohoo! Go New Zealand! With the TikTok partnership and app currently available in the US, Canada, the UK, and Australia, BigCommerce merchants will be able to showcase their brand personally to enrich their connections with current customers, reach new shoppers, and drive traffic to their storefronts. Now, we've talked about this before. TikTok shopping does not mean TikTok buying. So this does not, this TikTok for Business offering is more about how as individual brands on TikTok, how can you get your product catalog in front of more customers? How can you showcase it on your profile in a shopping tab, like the initial trial that TikTok did with Shopify, and then they rolled that out to more e-commerce platforms, including BigCommerce. So it's not the ability to purchase in-app. The in-app purchasing function is not available yet, although they're obviously still talking about that. However, in-app shopping is, and so that allows brands to showcase products in a shopping tab on their profile, which then links through to the e-commerce website of that brand to complete the purchase. And what BigCommerce has called out here is that as we continue to make significant strides in the international expansion, BigCommerce remains committed to helping merchants of all sizes sell more and reach new audiences wherever they're located. We've made it easier for merchants in these countries to promote their brands to the more than 1 billion people who use TikTok every month, and we're making it simple and affordable for sellers to advertise on the platform. Shannon Ingrave, Vice President and General Manager APAC of BigCommerce. I know Shannon. He's a great guy. He's been in e-commerce down in this region for many, many years. He's Australia-based. And he said that qualified merchants will be able to participate in BigCommerce's joint advertising incentive program so that they can explore TikTok's suite of advertising solutions with confidence, financial freedom, and flexibility to expand audience reach and drive business growth. Through January 31st, 2022, eligible merchants who spend $300 on ads will receive $1,000 in advertising from TikTok and BigCommerce. So effectively spend $300, get $1,000. That's pretty good. You get sort of 3 times the value out of that. And it says the TikTok for Business app is available to merchants via the BigCommerce Channel Manager and equips partners with a new approach to strengthen their omni-channel sales strategies and assist with content optimization and other services. So exciting times for BigCommerce brands or brands that are selling on BigCommerce and want to penetrate further into TikTok land, particularly in countries such as New Zealand that have been sort of the last cabs off the rank in terms of that integration. So good news coming out of BigCommerce and TikTok very recently. Now, when we look at financial news, we've got a story out of Inside Retail, which says why buy now, pay later stocks fell in 2021 and what's in store for them. BNPL companies were among the stock market darlings of 2020 and nowhere more than in Australia, the birthplace of pioneering companies such as Afterpay and Zip. There are 15 BNPL companies listed in the Australian Securities Exchange, ASX, more than any other exchange in the world. So buy now, pay later, such as, when you compare buy now, pay later penetration in Australia with marketplace penetration in Australia, Australia absolutely leads the world in these 2 categories of e-commerce services. Marketplaces, BNPL, absolutely, common as water in Australia, and absolutely, a foundation of these technologies, a foundation of these brands selling across marketplaces and BNPL services, notably, obviously, Zip and Afterpay being founded in Australia, going international, Square buying Afterpay. It is an absolute hotbed of innovation around e-commerce and other supporting technologies such as this. It says, the article goes on to say that if you took a punt and bought shares in any of these brands or these companies, BNPL companies, over 2021, there's a good chance you've lost money. The state of the sector isn't as bad, however, suggested by news reports claiming stocks have plunged an average of 80% in 2021. Those reports reflect calculations from peaks, mostly in February, that were part of a wider tech stock bubble and were not sustainable. A more realistic picture comes from comparing values from before the frenzy. In the 12 months to November 30th of 2021, the 15 ASX-listed BNPL companies lost an average of about 30%, 36% of the share value. The best performers were Fatfish Group and Novati Group, followed by Afterpay, whose share price was up about 15% from November 30th of 2020. Afterpay is now Australia's 15th most valuable stock, with a market capitalization of about $32 billion. The worst performers were Split It and Lay-By Holdings, down almost 80%. So certainly we're seeing a bifurcation. We're seeing a scenario whereby BNPL, or buy now, pay later services, are being, they started out as kind of standalone products, standalone fintech products in the marketplace, going to market and grabbing consumers directly. And now we're seeing them become nested as basically services. They're now services of larger financial groups like Square, who want to add buy now, pay later services to their already existing suite of merchant and consumer solutions. And it absolutely makes sense, considering the fact that, as we talked about, I think it was either last week or the week before on our live, we talked about the fact that the ASIC is going to be regulating the Australian, whatever it is, the Australian watchdog around financial rules in Australia. I forget what ASIC stands for, but anyways, it's the Australian watchdog around the financial markets. They are going to be regulating the BNPL market moving forward. And obviously that announcement has also put pressure on BNPL stocks as well. And so the Australian Securities and Investments Commission, that's what they're called, Australian Securities and Investments Commission, ASIC. And the 2018 Senate Committee inquiry into credit and financial services targeted at Australians at risk of financial hardship. And in October, the Reserve Bank of Australia report concluded that it would be in the public interest to remove BNPL provider rules that prevent merchants from charging customers for the surcharge paid by the merchants. And so what we've been seeing is ever more pressure being put on the BNPL sector, not only in the sense of more and more BNPL competitors coming into the marketplace and the service becoming commoditized, but them also being nested under much bigger financial players like Square. And it would not surprise me at all if something like Stripe bought out either another major BNPL player or they themselves were nested underneath a larger player of some description, although they're probably getting a little bit too big for their britches right now. I've talked in the past about Stripe potentially buying Klarna, but also Klarna's market cap right now probably makes them unachievable to buy Stripe, but they could enter into a strategic partnership or a strategic merger. That's definitely a possibility. So what we're seeing is all of these BNPL players moving up the food chain of financial services and nesting themselves under the guise, under the umbrella of much more regulated, formal financial services businesses. So I think this one's going to be a super interesting one to watch moving forward. Now, the final piece of news for the day, podcast episode at the Coalface podcast, episode 109 was released yesterday. As we always do every Thursday morning, we drop our new episodes every single week, Thursday morning, New Zealand time. And this one was talking e-commerce, visual AI, product tagging, and search with Abhi Vora of Ocular. Now, Ocular is an Australian-based visual search and visual AI platform that allows merchants to tag their products dynamically with descriptions and attributes based on the visual cues of that product. And they really target brands and industries and verticals that have an aesthetic quality to their products. So we're talking the fashion industry, the furniture space, and any other space that really has products that rely on visual aesthetics to sell the product, or the visual aesthetics of the product are a very, very important component of being able to sell, buy, and also identify the products that you actually want. And so what they do, this technology allows brands to effectively use their machine vision and AI technology to auto-populate products with specific attributes. So if the product has primarily a red color, then their AI will automatically apply the red color attribute to the product. If it's a boot and it has a high heel, or a shoe and it has a high heel, then it can apply a high heel attribute to that product and the like. And it can also dynamically generate descriptions for those products that allow them to be turned up in long tail search and give them the right names and all the rest. So very, very interesting technology. They've been working on it for a while now. They've had some external funding, which has allowed them to grow. They have some really, really smart people working in Australian e-commerce as part of their advisory board, and they're growing very fast. So it was a very, very interesting discussion with Abhi. It gets quite technical, but it is also super interesting, and it also helps brands to understand how they can scale the onboarding of products into their catalog in a scalable way, that you don't just have to throw hundreds of people at your merchandising team. Through the use of modern technology, a lot of the catalog maintenance functions of a marketing and merchandising team can actually be done by technology. It can't be 100% automated, but certainly it can do, say, 70 to 80% of the heavy lifting, particularly in industries that live and die by frequent drops of product like the fashion industry. It is very, very hard for merchandising teams to keep up with the enrichment of information and data around those products at the pace that products are being released in today's world. So go and check out that podcast, episode 109, Abhi Vora of Ocular, founder, and I think his technical title, CEO of Ocular. So go and check that episode out. I think you'll find it super interesting, even if you don't work in the fashion or furniture industries, or industries where your products have a visual element to them. I think you'll learn a lot about the way that technology can be used by e-commerce and retail brands to scale their business without throwing tons and tons of bodies at it. It's been awesome to be with you here today. Thank you very much for spending time with me. I've really, really enjoyed your company, and I look forward to being with you next Friday. We are getting dangerously close to Christmas, so next Friday will be the 24th, so it will be Christmas Eve day. So I have yet to decide exactly whether I'm going to do a live on the 24th. I probably will, to be honest. It may be an abbreviated one. It may be a special Christmas episode. We'll see, but we'll figure something out. I look forward to catching up with you next week. Have a great day, guys, and have a good weekend. Cheers. Bye-bye.